All right, I guess we're live. We're live. Let me take that out. Let me open the chat here. I'm feeling a little under the weather. Oh, wow, okay. So I see there's people here. Good evening. It's evening over here. Gunmetal Crow. Stargazer 792. Good evening to the two of you. YouTube live control panel. I still have to figure out how to do the whole timer thing. Can you guys hear me okay? Am I being heard? All right, listen, let me just get started. So this video we're going to be discussing Mother Kali, but specifically how she relates to four specific nakshatras: Ardra, Mula, Purva, and Uttara Bhadrapada. So this is not going to be too deep, well, more or less deep of an exploration into Mother Kali herself, but again, specifically how she relates to the nakshatras. So let us begin. The mantra of Mother Kali, that's the sound that is her true energetic form, is cream, or rather cream is how it should be pronounced. Cream is actually Mars's mantra, so this is interesting. Mother Kali is said to use Mars's mantra to tame, control, but also heal Saturn. So it's very interesting how this works, right? Specifically, some planetary mantras are actually used to heal and control and to tame other planetary mantras. So, for example, in the case of Mother Kali, her cream form is actually the energy of Mars, but is used for Saturn. Hleem, Hleem, is Bagalamuthi's mantra, and Hleem is actually Saturn's energy that is used to heal and control Mars. So somebody who's struggling with Mars issues, they are called upon to chant the Hleem mantra. All right, so let's continue. What does Saturn represent? Saturn is obstacles, but Mars destroys obstacles. Saturn is limitation, but Mars destroys limitations. Saturn is slowness, Mars is speed. Saturn is lazy, Mars is energy. Saturn tightens and binds, Mars loosens and frees. So, Mars helps an individual to break free from Saturn. One can even observe this behavior in a chart. When Saturn sits on the ascendant, everything in that individual's life takes much longer, and the individual is actually inexperienced and ignorant about many things in life. Inexperience. It's as if Saturn keeps one in a bubble. It's as if Saturn operates like a helicopter parent, not letting an individual go. When Mars sits on the ascendant, an individual experiences too much from a very young age, as if there were never any restrictions on him. So let me add something else. Let me open up Notepad here. My computer's been a little slow lately. Forgive me. Notepad. So I can add a few extra notes here. Coffee. In some circles, I often hear this debate going on. What is coffee? What is the planet that controls coffee? Is it Mercury? Is it Saturn? Is it Mars? Well, here's what coffee is. Coffee agitates. It accelerates. You know what I mean? It wakes people up, right? And the energy of coffee is used to rid us of our sleepiness, our laziness, and help us to conquer the external world, right? So what is coffee? Coffee is actually a component of the planet Mars. Coffee is Mars, but it is Mars applied to Saturn. So we drink coffee that is Mars in order to deal with and destroy Saturn. So in a way, people aren't exactly wrong when they relate coffee to both Mars and to Saturn, but perhaps it is the way that they relate it that is the issue, because coffee is the energy of Mars that is used and applied towards Saturn. So let's check the chat a little bit before we continue. There are 8 pages. I decided to let me just read all 8 pages here on YouTube and then maybe I'll put something else on Patreon. I don't know. All right, we have 27 views, 18 concurrent viewers. My name's not Dario, but okay. Hi, Stephen Hawking. Hello, hello, hello. All right, then. If you guys have any questions, you guys already know. YouTube Studio is not responding. What does that mean? Open Studio. Okay, but the stream is going fine, I hope. The connection is poor. Oh, well, that sucks. I mean, listen. Okay, so YouTube Studio is having a bit of an issue, but let us continue anyway. Apparently the stream did not cut off, so that's great. Let's continue. Where was I? All right then. Mother Kali is to be worshipped to achieve anything, especially the hardest to achieve things in this reality. For she not only breaks down the barriers to our wishes, but she also gives us the energy and the freedom to employ any tactics, no matter how socially unacceptable, to achieve that object of our desires. She essentially allows us to give into our lusts, but note, this does not mean that she herself is inherently lustful. And so Mother Kali is worshipped for her rule-breaking, boundary-breaking, and accelerating qualities because, again, it is the energy of Mars used to destroy Saturn. In fact, her effect is so extreme that she places an individual in a position where, even if he commits crimes, he cannot be restricted by the forces of the law. He can literally get away with murder. This is very interesting because of the supposed... Excuse me, I'm speeding up. This is very interesting because of the supposed Indian criminal sects called thugs that worshipped or purported to worship Goddess Kali. Okay, apparently it is still poor, the connection. The connection is still poor, but I think we're still live and things are still going, right? Okay, great. You want to share something about Lakshmi and Jayashti and Mula? Well, maybe not in this video because we're talking about Kali. Yeah, I've observed that too, Dignity. Alright then. I do hope we're still live. This error thing is really making me nervous. But I think we're still live. Are we still live? Are you guys hearing me? Alright, so let me talk about this Indian sect called thugs. So you guys should really research this a little bit. The thugs of Mother Kali or something like that. Okay. So basically, a long time ago, and for many, many years, there was this criminal organization, right? And this criminal organization was called thugs. Of course, we know that in English, the word thug means thief, bandit, criminal. So the thugs of that time, they purported to worship Mother Kali. And listen, the thugs was a criminal organization that was very, 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 very well run for how many years? I think I saw some articles that said that their organization was run for almost 600 years. A criminal organization running for 600 years, stealing and killing for all that time. And they worship Mother Kali. So where are we? Quoting an article online, this sect started around 1760 when fear spread about a group of highway robbers who pretended to help travelers only to later murder them and take away their belongings. Apparently, according to this and several other articles, this criminal organization lasted up to 600 years. So some reports say that it started in 1760, others say that it goes even before that. And it was highly organized such that authorities mostly suspected these killings and robberies were random individual instances, not knowing they were part of a more systematic underground operations. Some accounts suggest that the number of their victims tallies up to the millions over these 600 years. Lifting another quote from the article, it was customary to finish them off with stabbings in an orgy of death that aligned well with the character of Kali. These criminals and all other criminals give us an idea of how unrestricted is the force of Mother Kali, that she so tames Saturn. She can allow you to break into someone else's home, essentially snaking your way into their boundaries, the limitations of their living space, to kill and extract whatever it is that you wish. As an extra note, the planet Mars itself is said to be the patron god of thieves. Mars is said to rule over thieves, and one can clearly see why, as Mars, when faced with a Saturnian force, will scan it for any crack on its walls to break in. Even the god of the nakshatra Kritika, Skanda himself, is specifically said to be the patron god of thieves as well. Alright, back here. I think the stream is going well. You haven't missed too much running with the horses. We're live. She did say that. Well, one reason why Uttara Bhadrapada can behave in a way that seems ill towards the masses and regular people is because it describes a state of being beyond human, which suggests that many people with displacement, they quite literally have a difficult time identifying themselves with the rest of humanity and with most other people. So yeah, that's one thing. Danisha does not really carry Mother Kali's energies. Actually, Danishta has an energy that resonates more with Bagalamukhi. And so you should read more about Bagalamukhi. You should contemplate her, because Bagalamukhi actually has an energy that resonates much more with Danishta. Because Danisha is actually much more self-controlled than regular Martian energy. Alright, so let us continue. Here is another way in which Goddess Kali limits the forces of Saturn. Every human being has, one could put it, two sides to themselves. One is social programming, and the other is something more sinister, more subconscious, our animal nature. You see, even if one is physically outside of society, one may still have society inculcated in the mind. Kali restricts this. She removes the side of us that is always thinking about what others will say about us and our actions. She quiets down the side of us that thinks of consequences of our behavior, and she makes us impulsive. She makes us act before we have the chance to think. This way we reveal and expose our true nature before we have a chance to allow social programming to kick in and hold us back. Moving on, Mother Kali also is related to wish fulfillment, as one of her names refers to her as Kamadenu, the wish-fulfilling cow. So we have here a dangerous stew. A force that grants us all of our wishes, but who also removes from us all limitations, both external and internal. What then would one wish for, existing outside the judgmental watch of society? What then would one wish for, if one is not held back by these superficial limitations of what is deemed to be good and deemed to be bad? You can see that this can easily result in a recipe for absolute disaster. How many of us lie to ourselves, telling ourselves that we would wish for world peace, when in truth we would wish for endless wealth? How many of us pretend to want love, when in reality we want to be worshipped by multiple lovers? She grants us our wishes, this is true, but she removes every self-imposed or utter-imposed limitation, such that we make our true wish, that wish we would keep concealed in our hearts. The wish fulfillment of Mother Kali often results in total self-destruction, but again, not because Kali herself is evil. Not because Kali herself is evil. I don't know too much about Egyptian deities, so unfortunately I cannot help with that. I don't know too much about Egyptian deities, but I think I know that Seth is supposed to be the bad guy, right? Seth's Egyptian god. Seth is supposed to be the bad guy. Ancient Egyptian god of chaos, violence, desert, storms, and foreigners. I see. And you're saying, could Seth, the Egyptian god, be a manifestation of Mars, while Osiris is Saturn, and then Osiris? I know that Osiris is the god of death, right? Osiris is the god of death, and then he was resurrected or something like that, as a god of the afterlife, the underworld, and the dead, as well as the god of fertility and regeneration. I actually don't know how to relate these to Jyotish, but let me see if there are articles or authors that have tried to relate these things. Egyptian gods and planet correspondence. Oh, actually, speaking of correspondence, I have the book 777. Forgive my very, very slow computer. Come on now. Open up 777. Here we have it. For those of you who do not know what is 777, it is basically a book on correspondences. Like there's every type of correspondence here, and it was compiled by Aleister Crowley, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was Crowley. Anyway, where are we? You see there's every type of correspondence here. Of course, it has a lot to do with Hermetic Kabbalah as well. But let me type over here. Let me search Set, Egyptian god. Or better yet, let me just write Egyptian. Selection of Egyptian gods. All right. Osiris and Set, Osiris and Set, Osiris and Set, Osiris and Set, Osiris and Set. I see Horus. I see Isis. Okay, I see Osiris over here, number 16. Number 16. And then I see... Oof. What is this now? So I see Osiris over here, and then Set. Where are you, Set? I don't see Set here. Okay, but number 16. Number 16, what path is that? Queen, scale... where are my files? King. Stop, you're being weird, computer. King. Scale. You know what? Forget that. Let me just go to the internet. Queen scale color Kabbalah. I'm trying to see the correspondence between Osiris and astrology, if I can find it. If I can find it. Man, I can't. And the worst part is that I had it in my computer. Whatever. Kabbalah. I just remembered. I have this site right here. Path number 16, path number 16, path number 16. Which path is that? Is it this? No, that's 22. Is it that? No, that's 17. Is it this? That's 13. Is it this? That's 18. This is 14. 16. Path number 16 is Taurus. It's Hawkma 2. Alright, listen. I can't figure it out. So sorry about that. Can't seem to figure it out right now, but maybe later I can find it out for you. Yes, and the forces of Mother Kali destroy karma. You think so? Thank you. I appreciate that. Ooh, I went down too quickly. Saturn in Mars, so I feel like Mars in the Ascendants. What did you want to share about Lakshmi and Jashta? Everybody says that we're living in the Kali Yuga, so yes. Do I write blogs? I used to, but now I just write them on Patreon. Speaking of my Patreon, why don't I plug that in? So this is my Patreon. I always write the hidden octave, even though it's Darsuli Shusha. You can join my Patreon. I write many different articles. I have about 183. All right, listen, let me read the final chats so that I can go back to my article. Who is this? Metastophilis. Metastophilis. I think I know that name. Metastophilis. Mephisto from Faust. Oh, I see. The wish-granting evil demon Satan figure person. Yes. Mother Kali can have that sort of energy, yeah. All right, let's go back. Let us consider another point. Energy. Recall that Mother Kali vibrates at the level of planet Mars, and so much of what we say of her influence applies to Mars. So a lot of the things that we're going to be saying about Mother Kali also applies to Mars because it's Mars's base energy, right? This mantra is a mantra of extreme energy. Remember, her Kreem mantra is a mantra of extreme energy. And when you chant it, it empowers all of you, even the bad parts. If you go to the gym regularly and you start chanting this mantra, you will gain a large boost in your workouts. If you're a waiter, this mantra will have you speeding through the restaurant floor. This mantra exaggerates everything and anything about you. This is a mantra of achievements in so many ways because not only does it destroy barriers to your success, but it also gives you the strength and speed to make the journey. This mantra not only empowers your virtues, but indeed your vices. So we're going to be talking a lot about vices. Consider the following. You have a small and manageable bad habit, like smoking, for example. You tell yourself it's not an issue because you only ever smoke on the weekends. Well, if you incorporate the worship of the goddess despite that bad habit, This energy will empower every single aspect of your life and reality, meaning that even your smoking habit will be taken from a level 2 to a level 10. Now you're taking bathroom breaks in the middle of the work week to get your fix. At your lunch breaks, you eat half a sandwich and satiate yourself with Marlboro Reds. It's been 2 weeks of chanting this mantra, and you've gone through 3 packs a day, and you don't even know what's wrong with you. This mantra will inflate every aspect of your life with so much energy that it will take even the tiniest, most seemingly manageable habit and take it to the extreme. Any vice, be it gambling, drinking, pornography, is taken to the point of literal self-destruction. It is, of course, one of the reasons people warn about this mantra and its usage, and why people often say that one would need a guru when deciding to take it on. Very often it operates in an insidious manner. One doesn't even realize at first that one's change of behavior or certain physiological changes are owing to her influence. One woman may take on this mantra and not realize why it is she suddenly is releasing more blood than usual during her menstruation, for example. Another man may take on this mantra and believe that his rapidly graying hair has no relation to its usage. And yet another man could suffer from a heart attack after only a few days of this sadhana. The word sadhana means spiritual practice. So let me check the chat a little bit, because I just want to make sure that we're still on and we're still live, because I don't want this to cut. All right, so let's talk about one interesting thing that is often said about Hindu gods and Hindu goddesses. What they often say is, and this is very much true if you practice these practices, the scarier the goddess, the more quickly she gives you your results. So let's compare, for example, goddess Kamala. Let's look at a few images of goddess Kamala, Kamalatmika, and also goddess Kali. Okay, so this is one image. Okay, that's one image, but Kamala, goddess, Wikimedia Commons, and Kali goddess. Let's check this, check that. All right, so let's check one thing about the iconography of, the picture is so small. This is goddess Kamala, who is the tantric Lakshmi. Look at how soft she looks. There's so much softness around her. She's surrounded by water, gentle elephants, right? Now let's look at goddess Kali. Not so soft. Not so soft. Quite scary, isn't she? Quite scary. But you want to know what practitioners say? Practitioners say that if you wish for something, goddess Kamala can grant you that wish in like 10 years. But goddess Kali can grant you that wish in like 3 months. Because her effect is very, very extreme. Generally speaking, it is said that the scarier the goddess, the more extreme her effects, right? She is represented in a scary way to represent just how quickly she gets you to your destination. I mean, imagine, I don't even know what metaphor to use, what analogy to use. Let us say you're trying to get from point A to point B. Let us say that one of your options is a very, very slow moving cruise ship, where they serve you, relaxing drinks by the pool and things like that. And let us say another option that they get you is a very, 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 very fast jet plane, a jet plane that is so fast that the air as it is, I don't even know how to describe this for those of you, for all of us who are listening to me right now. But when you're going very, very quickly and you see, like, even in cartoons, like the air pushes against your face and pulverizes your face such that your eyelids are pulling against you, your lips are pulling against you. And so, yes, the scariness of the goddess is supposed to represent just like, here I am losing the words to describe to you right now. This is the reason why I prefer to write, because as I'm writing, I come up with the language and it's much easier. I'm not very good at like spontaneously describing phenomenon. But yeah. Let me check the chat a little bit. Then we'll continue. That's also a very good point. And since Mother Kali represents the force of Mars, and the force of Mars has to be tamed by something calm and serene, that's a interesting way to put it, yes. Absolutely, Elena, absolutely. Billionaires worship a the satanic variety of billionaires, which, I mean, realistically speaking, it's probably all of them. Because people often say, even within mystical circles, they say that there's a certain level of wealth that you can reach that is actually demonic. Like, it's demonic forces that are giving you that. You're asking whether billionaires worship Kali or they worship a deity that is like Kali. Yes, they ought to. A deity that allows them to get away with murder without being put in check? Absolutely. A deity that allows them to arrive at extreme levels of power very, very quickly? Absolutely. And also, going back to the thugs, remember that I was talking to you guys about the thugs, these thugs that supposedly worshipped Mother Kali. Something that many articles online say about the thugs is that one of the ways that they would appease Goddess Kali, you want to know what they would do? They would sacrifice human beings. They would literally sacrifice human beings, sometimes in an orgy of stabbings as well, And so it's very interesting that there's a relationship. There's oftentimes this relationship between human sacrifice and getting away with murder. And also, to go on a little bit of a tangent, we can also comment a little bit on Claire Nocti's video on Purva Bhadrapada. Right? So here's the thing. Even in ancient times, whenever a collective wanted to rid themselves of their own sins, what did they do? They had a scapegoat. They had an unblemished lamb. And so basically they would take that lamb, they would take that scapegoat, and they would perform a ceremony, a ritual where they would literally cast all of their sins upon that goat, and then they will sacrifice it. That way the people would be clean of all of their evils, and that goat would suffer the consequences of their evils. Of course, in Christianity, we have the figure of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And in Christianity, Jesus becomes the unblemished lamb, and everybody casts upon Jesus Christ their own sins and their own evil so that they can be free, right? And I remember in Claire Nocti's Purva Bhadrapada video, she talked about that as well. Well, she didn't talk too much in depth about Jesus and things like that, but she used a lot of the iconography to let one know. Yeah. And so definitely billionaires do some form of that as well. You know something, Ellen? Many people have different opinions on this. Many people insist that you need a guru. Other people say you don't need a guru at all. Later on in my little documents, I'm going to be explaining a few things that you'd need if you want to do it on your own. But let me just tell you it right now. If you don't have a guru and you want to start a spiritual practice, you need to get a journal. And you have to jot down every single little instance, every single little thing that happens to you after you initiate that practice, because you never know the various ways in which a deity is being introduced into your life. You never know the various ways in which a deity is trying to influence you. You know what I mean? Especially when you're taking on a more difficult practice. So me, myself, I've chanted this mantra at various times in my life for varying durations, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. And let me tell you something. The most extreme effects in my life from taking on a mantra has always come from Kali's mantra. One thing that would happen to me literally within the 24 hours is something or someone would die. I remember the first time I ever chanted Kali's mantra, my father's dog died. There was a storm and there was a lightning strike on a tree in our backyard. First and foremost, I have lived through many storms, as I know many of us have, obviously, because storms are a common occurrence. I have never personally witnessed a tree being struck by lightning. But within the first 24 hours of my chanting that mantra, a tree was struck by lightning and my dad's dog died. I remember the second time I chanted the mantra, 24 hours later, who died? My grandmother. And so there's always something very, very extreme that happens around me within the first 24 hours and within the first week. I could really go on, but some things become of a very, very personal nature, and so I'd rather keep that to myself. But yeah. And then a lot of times, because the effect is so extreme, I tell myself, I can handle it. But a lot of times the effect is so extreme that after a couple of weeks, I'm like, listen, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this anymore. Let me just switch to something else. Because it's a lot. It's a lot of energy. I wanted to say something else. What did I want to say? I wanted to say something else, but now I've forgotten it, unfortunately. Well. I went down too quickly. Can Kali facilitate physical healing? She can definitely facilitate physical healing. Absolutely running with the horses. What you're saying is very much true. Yeah, it can be a little dangerous, but I don't think most people die. If you have an Anuradha ascendant, you know something. The people that can get away with chanting Kali's mantra without causing too much harm to themselves are people who have a lot of Saturn or Saturn nakshatras. Because since Saturn is already very self-controlled and it's always like analyzing itself for any vices and weaknesses, such individuals are much less likely to suffer too great consequences from chanting Kali's mantra. Oh, I remember the thing that I wanted to say about chanting Kali's mantra. So here's the thing. Anytime you devote yourself to anything spiritually, you know what you do? You make yourself into a temple. The ultimate temple is not the external temple. It is not a church or things like that. The ultimate temple is the human hearts. And whenever you take on a practice, what happens is that you become a temple to that force, and that everywhere you go, when you're at home, when you're at work, even when you're not actively chanting or actively worshiping that deity, your heart is pumping worship. Your heart is pumping worship, and you're quite literally influencing the people around you. So whenever I chanted the Kali mantra, not only changes would happen to my life, but literally extreme changes would happen to my family and my friends and the people that were closest to me. It's like my heart is pumping that worship, and because of that, even the people who are not necessarily doing not necessarily chanting Kali's mantra, even their lives are changing. Like, my mother decided this one time that I was chanting the Kali mantra, within the same week, my mother finally decided to get a PhD. My father signed this huge, like the biggest contract he ever signed, and he started traveling to places like Dubai. My sister, she finally, she finally got her boyfriend to say do you want to be my girlfriend? Like, make that proposal. So like, yeah, the most extreme things. I had this one friend who I talked to. Actually, you know what? Excuse me, but I realized that I was going to share something a little too personal. So I think I should just keep that. No, not in your case. In your case, Elena, I'm sure somebody won't always die, but in my case, somebody always died. But I'm sure in your case, you're fine. Wow, Unicorn 8, that's very interesting. What language does your mother speak? Wow, Kale means now. Interesting. Do I think that I gained from those deaths? To be honest, I don't really think they had. No, maybe I should really reflect upon it, but I don't really think so. Thank you for that. Thank you, Elena. All right, let me go back to the documents. We are chatting too much. So the iconography of Mother Kali is also very interesting because it depicts her in a battlefield surrounded by slaughtered bodies. Let's go back to this image. Where is that image? Where are we? Her iconography depicts her in a battlefield surrounded by slaughtered bodies. Okay. She, however, is defeated by the serene body of the glowing Shiva placed underneath her. This man right here, this is Lord Shiva. Oof. This man what did I do? This man right here, this is Lord Shiva. And I did not say this in the document, so I'll say this here. Notice that he is serene. And notice that also among the things that he's holding is the snake, the serpent over here. One interpretation of this is the following. He is in control of his own sexual centers. When you chant Mother Kali's mantra, one of the things that happens, listen, I'm just going to be explicit. You get very, very horny. Here I am talking about how Kali gives you a lot of energy, blah, blah, blah. She empowers your vices. She also makes a person extremely horny. It's one of the things that makes it hard for you to control yourself with her energy. But look, Lord Shiva is carefully holding the snake, carefully holding his own sexuality. He has tamed his own sexuality. Lord Shiva is telling us, he's teaching us what it takes for you to be successful in Kali Sadhana. You have to be serene. Despite the extreme agitation that this mantra will cause in your life, internally, externally, you have to search for serenity. If you can do that, you can overpower this mantra. But of course, how many people can do that? Moving on, where are we? So, of the various interpretations of this image is the following. This goddess will destroy you, but not because she is evil, but because she removes all the breaks in you. She removes everything that limits you, and she gives strength and energy to every aspect of you, whether good or bad, allowing you to come face to face with your own nature, unrestricted by the policing forces of either society or your own programmed consciousness and superficial ideas of right and wrong. Having introduced some of these ideas, let us now relate them to the nakshatras. Much of what we have described as the effect of Mother Kali describes also the states of Purva Bhadrapada. This nakshatra is one without breaks. It is one without obstacles, without constraints, and without limitations. It is one of the most rebellious nakshatras, second perhaps to Vishaka. Actually, between Vishaka and Purva Bhadrapada, quite frankly, it's hard to tell the difference. It's hard to tell which one is more rebellious. And it relates to existing outside of the bounds of society because society cannot contain it. In fact, this nakshatra can be so lacking in control that even the natives themselves struggle to control themselves and their impulses. Purva Bhadrapada is the state that Mother Kali places in an individual. And so basically, if you're somebody who's deciding to chant her mantras or to worship her, what her energy is going to do, she's going to put you in the state that Purva Bhadrapadas naturally exist in. Right? Yeah. Purva Bhadrapada then has no restrictions placed on its behaviors or desires, whether societal or even moral. This is one of the reasons why it is often said to be a very dangerous nakshatra, because whereas some people will only ever fantasize about committing crimes, theft, or murder, Purva Bhadrapada, under the influence of goddess Kali, will not only remove those civilized limitations, but will also give energy to every impulse, taking them from the level of thought to that of action. And so one with such a nakshatra can even kill. Now, of course, it's important to remember the things that I'm saying do not apply to all Purva Bhadrapadas, right? Most Purva Bhadrapadas are not out here trying to kill people. You know, I'm speaking about a particular expression. Purva Bhadrapada is a nakshatra that, once it decides it has a desire, it does not tell itself no. It does not tell itself no. And they will make use of any means to achieve what it is they wish, even witchcraft. This nakshatra is one that often gives itself over completely to its vices, should it possess any, because it struggles to control itself, or better yet, oftentimes it doesn't even seek to control itself. It enjoys giving itself over. All of the Purva nakshatras, Purva Palguni, Purva Shada, Purva Bhadrapada, relate to a form of lust, as they suffer from an intense agitation to achieve, to conquer, and to acquire. But let us focus more on devices. Whereas most people have more controlled vices, Purva Bhadrapada has a side to it that completely gives itself over to vices. You will of course recall that we said of Kali that she gives a person over to their vices because she destroys inhibitions and increases desire. Her mantra Klim is very similar to the mantra of pleasure, which is Klim. Notice the difference in vowels here. Alright, so what is the difference between Klim and Klim? There are various differences, but one of them is the vowel. See, R versus L. The R vowel is Ram, and the L vowel is Lam. Ram is the mantra of fire, of power, of overcoming, of energy, of ramming through things. But Lam is a cooler energy relating to earth, to stillness, to stability. And the other vowel the other thing that they share is the K, which is Kam. And Kam is the mantra of Mother Kamakya. Kamakya. Goddess. Kamakya. And of course, you can see from the word Kama that she is the goddess of desire. Kama is desire, it's sexual excitement, it's fun, you know? And so, when Kam is combined with Ram, it makes a person, again, very lustful. Very, very lustful, very energetic, very lustful, destroying every single boundary to their desire. But when Kam is combined with Lam, it is pleasure, it is joy, it is playfulness, you know, because the energy of play and the energy of lust, in a way, the forces of play are a more subdued form of lust, you know. What is play? Play is playing video games. Play is swimming in the beach. Play is playing volleyball. Play is telling jokes, right? And what is lust? Well, we don't have to go into detail about that. I think we all know what that is. And so when kam is combined with lam, it is the lighter, stiller, more cool form of kam. But when kam is with ram, is the more exciting, more explosive, more energetic, right? So yeah, I'm gonna come to the chat in a while, but let me just finish this paragraph. And also Gleam is the mantra of Lalita and Kamadeva. Besides, yeah. So where were we? Cream is much more lustful because it increases sexual desire to an uncontrollable degree, which is one of the reasons why I said before that the only real way for you to control this energy is for you to be as still as Lord Shiva. But most people do not possess that level of stillness, which is why most people don't really benefit from chanting this mantra for an extended period of time. Where are we? So we can see now that Purva Bhadrapada is a nakshatra that is very prone to self-destruction. Unfortunately, it is a nakshatra that is very prone to self-destruction. Not because they want to destroy themselves, but because they just give themselves over too much. Much like Kali herself influences people to destroy themselves by their own vices. She is the goddess that takes all qualities from their seedling states all the way to fruition. And for those who cannot handle her effects, she makes a man overripe to the point of putrefaction, as one is made rotten by one's own vices and weaknesses. So that's basically it. Okay, let us now go back up. All right, so Night Mary 666. No, Night Mary 666. You can't practice 2 mantras at the same time, doing one each day. You're not going to be doing anything. You have to do one mantra at the very least for 6 months. Yeah. If you really want to do the Kali mantra Night Mary 666, do this. First and foremost, buy yourself a journal. Buy yourself a very simple notebook. Chant the mantra for 40 minutes every day, silently in your mind, and make sure to write down every single effect, every single thing that you notice going around you. Like even things that to you seem like random, like I was walking in the park and 2 black dogs started barking loudly at me. Mother Kali has a lot of influence over dogs. I can tell you, like for me. This one time I was chanting her mantra, my underwear was hanging outside, after washing. I had 3 different pairs of black underwear, and my father's dogs, they tore them. They pulled them out, and my underwear was literally the only piece of clothing that they did that to. And the dogs are always outside. The clothes are always hanging outside and the dogs are always outside. They behaved in a way that they literally never behaved. It was so weird. But I knew it was Mother Kali because I've learned to identify her. You know what I mean? And so that is something that you need to do. And if you chant it for a day, for a week, for 2 weeks, and you start noticing the effects are a little too weird and hard to control, do not be afraid to stop. Do not be afraid to stop, Her mantra is very, very powerful for anybody who wants to grow spiritually. Let's say you're somebody who really want to grow spiritually, but you want to grow spiritually very, very fast. Her mantra is wonderful for that. Even if you chant her mantra for a short period of time, like for a week or 2 weeks, she tends to have effects that are quite lasting. You know what I mean? And so I'm not here to tell you guys not to do so. It is true that there are many people say that you need a guru, but there are many other people that say that you don't need a guru. So I'm not here to tell you guys what to do, but I am here to tell you guys to get a notebook and to pay a lot of attention to your own lives. That is what I am here to tell you guys. Oh, from Uganda. I see. Wonderful. Oh. Yeah, Vishakas are very much like that. Yes, Kali and her mantra heal Saturn. If chat clean, well, let us see. What is that website? Kali Mantras. So there's a specific mantra that relates to Mother Kali, which is the mantra that we're talking about. But there are also various other mantras, combinations. Let us see. All right. So if you want to have some of Mother Kali's energies, but you also want some of Gleam's energy, you could chant the Shri Shmashan Kali mantra, which her full mantra is Aim, Hreem, Shreem, Gleam, Kalike, Gleam, Shreem, Hreem, Aim. One of the problems with chanting longer mantras is that the overall effect tends to be more subdued. Mantras are much more powerful when you chant them like individually, like this, like gleam, 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 right? So, yeah. Oh, it can help you gain results at the gym, but you'd have to be prepared for a whole lot more than just that. If you have trouble with mental chanting, do it verbally. But here's the thing, mental chanting is more powerful because you want to know what practitioners say. They say this. In order to get the effects of a god or goddess, you have to chant that mantra like a lot of times. You know what I mean? Like a million times or things like that. But now check this out. Check this out. One mental chant is equivalent. Where's my plus equal sign? One mental chant is equivalent to, how much did they say? I forgot how much they say. Whatever. Let me just come up with a figure just for you to have an idea. This is not the exact figure, but like, whatever. Let's say 1,000. They say that one mental chant is equal to 1,000 verbal chants. And then there's another level of chanting, which right now the level is escaping me. But that level of chanting that is a little bit more silent, a little bit more deeper, a little bit deeper. Let's just call it the third level of chanting. That level of chanting, one of the third level of chanting chants is equivalent to 1,000 mental chants. And then there's a fourth final level of chanting. One of the fourth level of chanting is equivalent to 1,000 of the third level of chanting. So see, if you want mantras to have an effect on you, you have to chant them a lot of times. But a what's the term? Shortcut is by doing it all these different ways. And so yeah, mental chantings are superior to verbal chantings. But listen, obviously if you're having a very difficult time with mental chantings, do them verbally. What else can you do? At least you're doing them. Okay. How do you know which mantra to chant? Well, first and foremost, you have to know what your issues are. What planets are your biggest issues? You will chant the mantra that heals that planet. That is what you would do. But if you don't really have any planet specifically that is an issue to you, but you suffer from other issues, chant that. Find a mantra that helps you chant that. If you suffer from too many obstacles, too many enemies, too many people are pressing you, you feel stuck in life, etc., chant Kali's mantra. She'll unstuck you very, very quickly. We also discussed the other mantra, the Kleem mantra. Kleem is the mantra of fun, of play, of excitement, of joy of life. If you're somebody who lives a very boring life, things are not very exciting, you're never really happy, things like that, this mantra can give you a lot of that. So yeah. In that case, try it. Nightmare. The result of not being able to integrate your shadow self. You know something, Sam, which, according to many recent studies, all meditation, when you're meditating well, all concentration meditation actually makes you that much more likely to suffer from psychosis. I was even watching a recent interview by that one guy. What is that guy's name? Not biceps, beer biceps. Yes, Ranveer. This interview with Dr. K, where he was talking about some of these recent studies that I'm telling you about, that they say that if you meditate for more than 40 minutes, you're that much more likely to suffer from a type of psychosis or things like that. Which, I mean, it's not contextualized as necessarily a bad thing, but like, yeah. But I was introduced to this study not by this interview, but this interview also touches upon that. So you guys should check out Ranveer if you guys don't know about him. I love his channel. He always has spiritual guests. Like Rajeshwari Nandi, for example. I love Rajeshwari Nandi. I watch pretty much every interview of his. I think I watched this interview as well, but it says it was posted 4 days ago. But in any case, yeah. How often do I do lives? Very infrequently, unfortunately. No, Unicorn 8. People who have a lot of Mars energy, they probably... Chanting more Mars mantras probably is not a very good idea for them. Because a lot of times people who have a lot of Mars energy, guess what? They have a difficult time controlling themselves. They're overly reactive. They're temperamental. Things like that. Somebody who has a lot of Mars energy actually would do much better chanting Bagalamukhi's mantra, because Bagalamukhi is the goddess that controls. She is the goddess that controls, tames, and heals Mars. So yeah. Kali's mantra for somebody who has too much Mars energy they can't handle, not a good idea. Will I make a video on Tripura Sundari? Absolutely. Alright, let's go back. Let us go back. Where were we? Whew. But it is important not to blame the goddess, for she is not the evil one, but her effects merely expose and make ripe the evil that already exists within man. Her effect is such that she can give over masses of people to their absolutely worst sins, to their absolutes, not absolutely. to their absolute worst sins: greed, lust, deception, and murder. But in all this, she, the goddess, herself is blameless. For if there existed no evil within those who call her energy, then they would not be harmed. For they do harm to their own selves when they find themselves face to face with their own sins at maturity. Kali's effect again being that of acceleration unto ripeness. But Kali and Purva Bhadrapada also place an individual in a very unique position, one of actually destroying their own evil selves, to then become transformed and emerge pure. Most people possess within them the seedlings of evil. They are not necessarily good people, but their corrupt side is kept at bay by various factors, which offers them the illusion of their own goodness. And since their evil is of a manageable degree, they do not pressure themselves to rip these vices from the garden of their own soul. Instead, they take pleasure in nursing this darkness and indulging in them. But when your evil is exposed and taken to the point of overripeness, you are forced between two choices. Either have your soul be destroyed by your own evil, or wrestle with your dark side and vanquish it. So one can now understand why it is that Purva Bhadrapada simultaneously relates to being overwhelmed by one's evil side, but also relates to vanquishing of this evil side and one's own transformation. Time for some practical examples of this. Let us return now to the example of smoking. Most people possess this habit at its seedling stage, smoking a little bit here and a little bit there. Various things may be stopping this person from really taking the smoking to the extreme. It is not that he does not want to, because he very much does, because he very much would like to smoke much more than he currently is, but it may be because he worries about his health, his wealth, and concerns himself with other people's opinions. But under the influence of Purva Bhadrapada, this habit would be taken to its point of maturity. Now there is nothing that holds him back from smoking as much as he wants. But now his habit has turned into an addiction that has taken over his life. It has aged him. It has caused him episodes of lung failure. It has acquainted him with death several times. He has hit rock bottom and now is at a fatal crossroads. Either wrestle with this beast that is his addiction and vanquish him once and for all, or allow himself to be totally destroyed. The spirit wrestles against matter, the one attempting to dominate over the other, the one attempting sometimes to destroy the other. Virtue and vice intermingle within a human being, and Mother Kali gives strength to both, to such an extent that the two battle within each other outright and to the death. Purva Bhadrapada and Mother Kali are related to sudden changes in a person's life. Both of these forces take a person to the extremes, then after having fully understood the meaning of that extreme, are either absorbed by it or completely rejected. These two forces are also related to epiphanies and sudden realizations. Purva Bhadrapada can make a person a race car driver one day, and then after one car crash, one changes course and becomes a hip-hop dancer. It then can take a hip-hop dancer and after winning an amateur competition held at a local community college and turn him into a world-renowned chef. Very random, but very much on brand for these energies. Now, recall that these energies also allow a person to get away with murder, because it completely removes all restriction, even that of the police or the law. But this is only for a limited time. Eventually, the individual experiences either the greatest freedom or the greatest and most hellish limitation of them all. Why? One may experience the greatest freedom if one finds oneself finally rid of one's multiple evil egos, as now the soul is free from every blemish and made clean. But one may also experience the greatest imprisonment in the event that the evil wins the war, and now the soul is fused with all that is corruption and trapped there seemingly permanently. All right. Hreem is sun's mantra used to heal the moon. Very sorry to hear that. Yogis have long been connected to Uttara Bhadrapada. Yes. What else about yogis? Yogis are said. Yogis are said to have the power to hypnotize people, to stare at a person. They don't even have to stare at you physically. They can quite literally just think about you, and from the distance, they can control your mind. Uttara Bhadrapada is also said to possess that same ability. So let us move on. Honestly speaking, I am quite hungry. So we're on page 6. That's good. Now let us speak of the ways in which Mother Kali relates to the nakshatra of Ardra. Ardra is the accuser. Ardra is a nakshatra very sensitive to the evils in its environment. It possesses a delicate nervous system, an ability to identify evil even at its inception, and a desire to see others perfected. It goes out of its way to attack and even destroy, even when no one asks it to. The force of Ardra is very important before one starts working with Mother Kali because it can help us to annihilate any evil within us that is still at its seedling stage or still at a stage of underdevelopment. That way, when we encounter her energies, she does not maximize also that which is corrupt, but only that which is good, ensuring a good sadhana. So here's something that Ardras do. Ardras like to point out our flaws. They like to point out our flaws and our mistakes. And here's the thing. If you're somebody who is surrounded by Ardra energy and you can't handle that, guess what? That is one indication that the Kali mantra is not for you. Because even if Ardra's energies you can't handle, you cannot handle Mother Kali's. Because Ardra natives are always studying you, analyzing you, and even those tiny flaws that are at its seedling stage, at its very, very infantile stage, even those flaws they will point out because they predict the future of those flaws. You know what I mean? How do you behave when you're around somebody who's always pointing out your flaws? Do you cry about it? Do you argue against them and look to contradict them? Or do you take a more humble attitude and are like, you sigh and you're like, listen, whatever, fine. I guess that's just something I'm going to have to work on myself. If you're somebody who takes that humble attitude, of deciding, you know what, whatever, let me work on myself, let me improve myself, guess what? That means that you're ready to work with Mother Kali. That means that when Mother Kali exposes you to your own nature, you're not going to scapegoat her. You're going to confront yourself and work on yourself. But if you're somebody who's always running away from yourself, always denying your own flaws, getting mad at people for pointing them out, then you're that much more likely to be destroyed by Mother Kali, because instead of recognizing your own flaws, you're going to allow them to so completely overwhelm you. And because you're too prideful to accept that they're flaws, you're going to let them destroy you. You know, a prideful person can never chant Mother Kali's mantra, because pride is the one sin that a person can have. You want to know why pride is so evil? Pride is one of the most evil sins, or the most evil sin, because it is the sin of a person that can never be corrected. Pride is the one sin that can never be corrected because a prideful person refuses to be corrected. What is that Bible verse? There's a Bible verse. Let me try to remember it. The prayers of the prideful incense, something like that. Let me see if I can find it. Psalms 141. Let me see if that's that. Google AI, do not fail me. No. Where is that? Oh, where are you? Let me see if this article can find it. I wish I was one of those people that can just memorize Bible verses so easily. 2 Chronicles 26. Let me check that out. 2 Chronicles 26. Let me see. Pride. No, it's not here either. File Bible verse. All right, listen, I can't find it, but let me just talk about it. So, whenever we pray to God, right? Whenever we pray to God, our prayers arrive to Him like sweet smelling incense. And the Lord receives all of our prayers. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are. You know what I mean? No matter what your sin is. But you want to know the one type of sin that you can possess that will make your prayers have a bad smell, a foul smell to God, to such an extent that He will literally not even listen to your prayers. In the Bible, it is written that the only type of person whose prayers God does not listen to is the prideful person's prayers. Let me see if I can find that. Bible verse: God does not listen to prayers of prideful. Where are you? Job 35:12. I don't think it's exactly this verse. No, those are not the verses. Those are not the verses. I feel like the verse is somewhere in Revelations. It's somewhere in the book of Revelations. Over here is saying, He does not answer when people cry out because of the arrogance of the wicked. Indeed, God does not listen to their empty plea. The Almighty pays no attention. But that's not it. You know something? I needed to call my Bible friend because she knows everything that there is to know about the Bible. Let me see this. I see a Facebook post. When they are motivated by selfish desires and by unconfessed or online within the seasons for unanswered prayer, jump. All right, in any case. But also, when you consider Christian philosophy, in general, it makes sense, right? Because what is the general idea of Christian philosophy? It is confess your sins and pick up your cross. See, when you're a prideful person, guess what you don't do? You don't confess your sins. Because confessing your sins is basically a fancy way of saying admits your faults. And pick up your cross is also a fancy way of saying dedicate yourself to self-improvement. Pardon my spelling. So Christian philosophy, really breaking it down, it's about owning up to your own weaknesses, to your own faults, and always perfecting yourself, basically. But guess what? If you're a prideful person, you don't do any of those things. Because if you're prideful, A, you don't even recognize or you don't want to recognize your own faults. And B, why are you going to improve yourself? You have no faults. Why are you going to improve yourself? You know what I mean? And so when you're a prideful person, God quite literally does not respond to your prayers. You can be any other type of person. But if you're prideful, that is the one type of person that you are, that God will not listen to you. And also, pride is the one sin that if you have it, you will always be destroyed by Mother Kali. Always be destroyed. because you're unwilling to recognize the evils that she's revealing to you that you need to correct. So yeah. LOL. Yes, Nightmare. That's a very good attitude because you know something about Ardras. Ardras have a very bad habit of over focusing on other people. They over focus on other people's flaws and they tend to forget a lot about themselves. Ardra is actually a very different energy from Saturn because here's what Saturns do. Saturnians do criticize other people, but Saturnians reserve their harshest criticisms for their own selves. Ardras aren't always like that. All right. How can I see pride in the chart? Well, there are a few guesses that you can make. When somebody has, you just have to look for the chart, look at the chart and see. All right, fine. Consider this. If somebody has sun in the first house, they're probably a little bit prideful because the thing about sun people is that they don't really like to look at their own flaws. They just like to exist and they don't really enjoy when other people point out their own flaws as well. Let's say you have Chitra placements. What's anything about Chitra? Chitra is the pearl, and Chitras really like to fabricate their own image and their own public image. And Chitras can really hate it when other people point out their flaws because they're trying to craft a particular image and you dare to point out a flaw. It can really upset them. It can really upset them. And yeah, it's one of the reasons why correcting Chitras can be a little bit hard because they don't want to accept the wrongdoing. They don't like to be seen as flawed in any way. And so Chitra can be a pretty difficult energy to correct. What other energy? What other energy can I think of like right off the bat? Right now I can't think of anything else. Fundamentally speaking, what it means to be a prideful person is to be a person who, at least in the biblical sense, somebody who is unwilling to accept or unwilling to consider their own flaws, their own limitations, and unwilling to correct themselves. Admit your sins to others where it is relevant. You should admit your sins to others if it is relevant to do so. You don't need to go out there, and start talking about every single crazy thing that you do. It's none of anybody's business. But like if you hurt somebody, if you offend somebody, if you're in a relationship with somebody and something like that happens, then yeah, you should. Chitras can be fun, but chitras have their ways about them. Let us go back to the document. Where were we? Okay. The forces of Ardra can also serve as a good guru for an individual, as a guru is often recommended to one before one starts such a difficult and often destructive practice. One's Ardra guru would point out to one every single one of one's evils and assess whether or not initiating this practice would be good or not. For someone who lacks a guru, having a journal where one jots down every occurrence, every odd event, every new inclination is very important and very beneficial. One must, in the absence of an Ardra-like guru, become the Ardra guru himself. There are times when one's sins are totally matured and one is being consumed by them without even realizing it. There, the force of Ardra steps in and points it out. It points out and says, "Look," and suddenly we realize our own selves. Ardra is also a nakshatra of epiphanies. Ardra is another nakshatra of epiphanies. It offers us sudden realizations that embarrass us, but also free us and transform us. Truths that hurt, but save us if we let them. Now, Mula is a nakshatra of purification. Mula takes something that is perverted and corrupt and either annihilates it totally. Oh, wait. Battery life. 2 seconds. All right, we're back. Where were we? Mula takes something that is perverted and corrupted and either annihilates it totally or discovers its original and pure state and pulls it back there. And so, when the force of Mother Kali operates on a person and they risk totally perverting him or her, again, not because Kali herself is evil, but because the individual themselves possesses evil, Mula is what is triggered deep within the individual, or in other cases, an external force representing Mula is called and assists the individual in ridding his or herself completely of every disgusting perversion, cleaning us, refining us, and bringing us to a state of beauty. So, the future-oriented Ardra destroys things at their roots before they have a chance to develop. But the purifying Mula destroys things and returns them to their root nature. And finally, we have Uttara Bhadrapada that represents those who survive the state of Purva Bhadrapada and emerge perfected. One first encounters the energies of Mother Kali. She places you in the state of Purva Bhadrapada, wild and free. She essentially nurses you along with your imperfections. But once you rid yourself of those imperfections, you arise as something that is beyond human. Because to be human is to be flawed. For someone who goes through the spiritual journey of wrestling themselves with their worst sins and with their worst flaws and to completely annihilate them, guess what? You've leveled up. You've now ascended to a level that is beyond human. As Uttara Bhadrapada describes a loftier state of existence. Before I continue, let me reiterate something that I said earlier. You remember earlier that I said that the type of people that truly succeed with Kali sadhana, with Kali mantras, are Saturnian nakshatras themselves, or people who have Saturn conjunct Sun, Moon, or Ascendant? Yeah, because if you are a Saturnian in this sense, you are always studying yourself. You're always picking at yourself, picking every flaw, picking every moral flaw, every social flaw. You're always perfecting yourself. So guess what? When you do decide to interact with Mother Kali's energies, you're not destroyed by them. Only good things happen to you. You're not destroyed by them because Mother Kali's energies are never going to maximize, expose, or give strength to your evils because you have no evils. And so it is very safe for people who have those sort of placements to handle Mother Kali's energies, Speaking myself as somebody who has a lot of Saturnian nakshatras and placements like that, I can tell you that harm to me personally, that never happens whenever chanting Kali sadhana. I'm not going to say the specific thing that happens to me because it's a little too personal, but it's not harm. It's not harm. Harm often comes to some people around me without my wanting it, because I'm very much like the stereotypical Saturnian. I'm the kind of guy that I'm always trying to study myself. I try to accept correction. I try to improve myself. And so, I don't really suffer from these sort of things. But people around me, they do. Where were we? Actually, what is said of Mother Kali is that she exists outside of time. She rules over it. And do you know what is said of Uttara Bhadrapada? It is said that one of its highest virtues is it gains the ability to escape the bounds of time itself, to escape the influence even of the material world. How? Consider this. If you are a man with an angry disposition, all it takes is Mars transiting your moon, transiting your ascendant, or aspecting a vulnerable planet for you to have an outburst. But the day you, as a man with such its impairments, dedicate yourself to self-improvements, the day you learn patience and consideration and tolerance and compassion and self-restraints, that is the day that you will be free of the influence of every Mars transit. Here's the thing. Transits affect different people differently. If you're someone who is naturally calm and collected, no ordinary Mars transits will take you out of your skin. If you're someone who is naturally of a happy disposition, no Saturn transit can put you down. And if you're someone whose sensual nature is kept at bay, no Venus dasha will make you cheat on your wife with your boss's spouse. See, astrologers often say this one very interesting thing. They say free will exists in spite of the goading of the planets. Just because you're going through transits and dashas does not mean that evil things will happen to you, because people always have free will. Just because your birth chart says a particular thing does not necessarily mean that you're going to be victim to it, because you still have free will, right? But now there's a caveat. We'll read about that. But to make a practice of free will is very difficult, as many of us are too much in chains by our habits and our vices to truly exercise free will. So, if laziness overwhelms you, you will feel too oppressed to practice free will. If pride overtakes you, you will make decisions that will go against your own well-being. If lust is burning in you, making the morally right decision seems impossible. In truth, we have free will, but this same free will is enchained by our weaknesses. And are they not heavy, these chains? So see, we all have free will, but the problem is that free will is intermingling with our weakness. Free will is intermingling with our laziness. Free will is intermingling with our pride, with our lust. As it is written in the Bible, a very, very often quoted verse, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, right? We all have free will, but the thing about our free will is that it needs to be exercised. You need to exercise your free will from your laziness. You have to exercise your free will from your lust. You're never going to be free if you are oppressed by your vices. Where were we? But the truly Saturnian individual acts in spite of this change. The truly Saturnian individual acts in spite of these change. The truly Saturnian individual exercises their free will like an athlete, to such a point that no laziness, no anger, and no lust is strong enough to bind them again. This also brings us back to both Ardra and Purva Bhadrapada. Another reason why Ardra relates to Kali is Ardra wishes to free humanity from every form of control, even the control of our own vices. That way we are truly free. And Purva Bhadrapada is an nakshatra that suffers from many influences, from many psychic attacks, from many vices, and they can often feel possessed and not themselves in charge of their own bodies and decisions. It is as if the voices and powers of their various vices and inclinations are so strong that they wrestle the rest of the consciousness for control and totally dominate it. Purva Bhadrapada has a unique understanding of the various odd subconscious influences in a person, and so is a nakshatra that relates to actively wrestling one's own self for the power over one's own consciousness and being. So you're seeing that, yeah, human beings do have free will, but that does not mean that that doesn't mean that you don't have to wrestle for it. It's as if the demons have taken hold of your free will. And so first and foremost, you must wrestle your free will from the demons, and then you're actually free to make your own decisions. Are we almost done here? Oh, we're basically done. This conversation about free will has much to do with strength and discipline. So we're seeing here that freedom. Let me stop rambling. So as you can see, a lot of times free will really has a lot to do with strength and discipline. Anytime you succumb to an influence, you necessarily give that influence more power over you and your being. Be that influence laziness or drugs or even spirit possession, as spirits often whisper to people subconsciously. The nakshatra of Purva Bhadrapada, again, puts one in a position where one is literally battling internally for control over one's own very consciousness against these various other influences. But in Uttara Bhadrapada, this battle is won. One is now clean of all influences, be they external or the lesser internal ones. And again, even planetary transits do not affect one, meaning that one is effectively existing outside of the bounds of time. For in a practical sense, what is time if not the motion of the orbs of the solar system and their influence upon earthly life? If one exists outside of the manipulation of the spinning planets, one does indeed exist outside of time. In Uttara Bhadrapada, in Uttara Bhadrapada is the one true freedom, freedom from mundane humanity, and it is where one even exits the material plane and dominates over it. All right, it has been 1 hour and 30 minutes of this stream. Woo! All right. Let's see like the final chats here. Are the Mars nakshatras narcissistic and prideful? The Nishta is the least of all. The Nishta is the most willing to receive correction. The Nishta is the most willing to improve itself. But Chitra, Chitra is the more difficult one in that sense. Okay, Lola. Wow. May I ask, you say Capricorn Lagna. What is your ascendant? Is it Shravana? I'm curious. I don't know if you watched, Lola, my first live on Saturn, where I talk about the gaze of Saturn and how Saturn's gaze, just literally Saturn's look, even just that can curse people. So that's interesting. Well, you can't really experience all the nakshatras in one lifetime because you're born with a particular set. But that doesn't mean that you cannot learn a lot of the lessons of the different nakshatras. You can. No. In my family, I'm the only person with Saturn nakshatras. I have Saturn nakshatras and I have Saturn in the first house. And yeah, actually, as a matter of fact, most of my nuclear family, they're Sun nakshatras. So yeah. And one is a Mrigashira with prominent planets in Chitra. For anxiety, that's not an easy to answer question because we would have to know what specific thing is causing anxiety in your birth chart. So that's not a very easy. But whatever mantra it is, it's probably going to be a mantra that has a lot to do with Lam. Because Lam is the earth mantra, and earth, generally speaking, pacifies anxiety. And Lam is also a very safe mantra to chant. And so if you're somebody who does not want to suffer from any weird or disturbing occurrences, Lam is a very safe mantra for you. No, it does not manifest in the same way. It manifests very, very differently. Very, very differently. That's an interesting point, actually, Sandwich. Oh, you're an Uttara. Interesting. All right, guys. I think this has been a successful stream. I'm gonna wait like a minute or two to see if you guys have like any more comments, any more questions, because I am starving and I really need to go eat something. I do not know who Hrithik Roshan is, but since you've compared me to him, Hrithik Roshan, let me type that here. Hrithik Roshan. Oh, he's this guy. Okay. What is his thing? And let me see if there's like an interview of him or something. Let me see if he has placements that are similar to mine since you've compared me to him. Well, what do I see here? I mean, listen, from what I gather, he's most likely an Aslesha. And also looking at his face, he looks like, yeah. But let me tell you one thing that we do have in common. We both have Ketu conjunct Saturn. But I'm not an Aslesha. So, yeah. Hrithik Roshan. Let's see his voice. Isn't there like an interview of his or something?
Which was on that ship in Kauna Pyare. That was Pyar Ki Kashti.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, no. Got fired left, right, and center. She's.
I mean, he has a nice voice, but do I sound like that? I don't think so. You're almost Shravana. No, he doesn't. Stop. Lies. Alright, guys. The same cadence. Well, if he's a Pusha moon, then that's interesting because I am a Pusha sun. So, all right. All right, guys. After an hour and like 40 something minutes, I think it is time to say bye-bye. And thank you guys so much for participating in my stream. I always appreciate you guys making yourselves available. So